Welcome to Catholic Messenger Conversations. Today, our guests are Marianne Agnoli and Trevor Pullinger from the Faith Formation Office of the Diocese of Davenport. And we are going to be talking about the second year of family and youth engagement in the Diocese of Davenport, kicking off the second year, I guess you would say, of our diocesan journey, synodal journey. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you both here.
Good to be here.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back. That's right. We talked with Jesse and Trevor, last December, was it?
Advent.
Advent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and we had great ideas from Trevor and Jesse. And actually, your family is expecting some really good news.
Yes, we're awaiting number 7 in T-minus, less than a week. So it could be any day. I might get the call and I might have to leave in the middle of this, so we'll see.
Okay, so we'll make it.
I thought you shut your phone off.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Uh-oh.
That 7th baby will have to wait.
Yeah,
at least until the end of this podcast, right? Okay, so I want to start with this question. The status quo has been for parents to drop off their kids for religious education once a week and let the experts catechize them. Why is this no longer enough? Is this enough or not?
Yeah, you start off with the easy questions, Barb.
That's right.
In large part, we're in a rapidly changing culture. That's the big thing, and that's the message that Denise Utter had when she, gathered us together in June. She shared with us in the book of The Great Dechurching by Jim Davis and Michael Graham. It was stated that, quote, 40 million adults in America today used to go to church, but no longer do, end quote. Wow. And from that same book, quote, for the first time in 8 decades that Gallup has tracked American religious membership, more adults in the United States do not attend church than attend church, end quote. So research all over the place you can see in Christian Smith's work, particularly, and it shows us that parents and caregivers are far and away the most influential people in a child's life. So there's a twin dynamic of changing culture and a recognition, through research that recognition of parents as the most influential people in a child's life. This is kind of found in 2 ways within that, which is that daily living and quality relationships frame a child's experience of the faith more than the 1% of time that they spend in classroom faith formation. So in previous models such as CCD or religious education, it was a classroom-centered model that worked well in a predominantly Catholic culture or community. But, in the greater life of the church, this was a unique approach. For much of the tradition of the church, it was really families handing on the faith with some kind of verification of readiness for the sacraments.
So what happened, Marianne, what's happened to the family that this has changed? I've heard so many families, parents, bemoan the fact that we raised our kids Catholic. We raised them in the church. We raised them, some of them went to Catholic schools, and they no longer participate in the church.
Again, relying just on the drop them off here, you take care of my kids model. Just statistically, if we have someone doing that, they drop them off at class, it has about 2.3% of the time that you're actually, of that whole child's year or life in that given time.
Right, yeah.
If they go to Catholic school, they're going to have somewhere between 6 and 12% of that kind of Catholic influence. But if you are able to increase that with a family influence, that the rate increases exponentially. I think Denise was saying around 55% of the time. Kids still have to sleep and go to school and other things. But so if they're not getting the Catholic culture that Trevor was talking about, which just had happened naturally before. but we're not having that naturally. And maybe if the family itself wasn't all that into it, other grandparents or aunts or uncles or neighbors would
Right.
be. So we just don't live in that Catholic culture anymore.
I got it.
Or
I
the
got
Christian
it.
culture in general.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And we should remember, okay, Denise Utter, is that how you pronounce
Yeah.
her name? Mm-hmm. And she is a consultant out of Chicago?
Yeah, and I knew Denise previously when I had been looking at family formation in a parish that I had served in, and I was familiar because of the work that she had done in that parish, as well as just her ability to kind of usher a community through this process of exploring what that means in a particular community. So it isn't like there's one particular model, but I think ultimately Pope Francis kind of says it best, or kind of in summary, where faith grows when it's lived and shaped by love. That's why our families, our homes, our true domestic churches, they are the right place for the faith to become life and life to grow in faith. Which is why youth and family engagement is far bigger than just formal religious education or even intergenerational catechesis by itself. It's about an entire community, the parish itself being the curriculum, which is why, Mary Ann, I don't know if you want to speak to about the year being kind of bigger than that.
Well, when we talk about youth and family engagement, we're not talking about just a religious ed program at the parish or even religious ed at the school. We're talking about everyone intentionally focusing on really trying to engage youth and families in all aspects of parish life and being intentional about it. Okay,
Yeah.
Not just saying, oh yeah, maybe we should have a youth rep on this, or maybe we should do that. But really, just like with Welcoming and Belonging last year, it was everybody's part to make that parish or school a more welcoming environment, especially to those on the marginalized. And I think with the same with youth and family engagement, it's somebody in the pew. It's a cafeteria person asking what the kids were learning in religious ed that day, and asking about that. Or it's the lady sitting in the pew looking out the window and saying, "Where do you see God?" To little Timmy across the pew. So it's not. That doesn't have to be that formal. In fact, I know one of the things that impressed me about Denise and what she was saying was really trying to encourage people to make these faith conversations natural, simple, spontaneous, not something that has to be planned. And sometimes we have to relearn that, and I think parents sometimes have to relearn that. So maybe we can be offering parents and catechists and teachers and just the parish in general some prompts here and there,
And Denise was speaking to, I guess we should have explained that to a pretty large audience from throughout the diocese, right? This was our synodal, sort of a synodal
Kickoff
summit.
event on
Yeah.
June 22nd.
On
yeah.
June 22nd.
We had over 100 registered participants, and the session was also recorded, so it could go out to other places as well. And about 35 different parishes and schools represented as well. And so this was just kind of the launch, the kickoff, and these communities were starting to identify where in the process they might find themselves and what they might be needing immediately and in the future in order to help develop a vision, of
What that looks
greater,
like for their community.
right, because it's going to look different in every place. Give very different in a small rural community as compared to a large community with more resources.
And many parishes are at different points as far as where they're at in engaging their youth and
Well, so can you talk about some of that? What are some of the best examples of parishes and schools evolving their religious education programs?
We actually had a panel of three representing three different communities, 2 parishes and 1 parish school combo that worked together. And so what we tried to do with that panel is kind of pinpoint where different people could be on this
The continuum.
On the continuum, and also different approaches. So the first panelist, Paulina from St. Mary's in Pella, talked about really how their whole vision, their whole kind of culture is one of more engagement and inclusiveness and accompaniment. So they were able to kind of revamp their small, instead of having a more of a catechetical, what are they, small groups.
Yeah,
she kind of had small groups, but she brought the high school students that maybe were already confirmed as mentors into like the junior high and lower grades, of course with an adult too. So here you had, the younger ones learning from the high school, and then the high school person learning from the adult, and you suddenly have a generational learning experience. But those youth, what she has found is that they're much more engaged in parish life. In fact, they're even bringing people back. She mentioned that usually after confirmation they lose a bunch of their teens, and here they actually gained because some of those teens are now inviting their friends. So this is the type of just creative and just kind of looking at the resources that they have and what she could do. So that's a very different, and that didn't have a lot to do with a certain academic program. It was just how do we think of creative ways to engage.
They did that in my parish. There was a confirmation, a person who was leading the confirmation catechesis, and she would invite the teens after they were confirmed. She said, I want you to help out in the classes. And they started doing that, and they enjoyed that. And I do see that in our parish where there were people who were engaged in those activities, got more involved in the parish too. It's almost like a natural sort of.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that maybe. Intergenerational doesn't mean that doing intergenerational catechesis doesn't mean that you have to do intergenerational catechesis for everything. Yeah. It just means that, in a parish context, in a particular community, what ways or what natural points can this really work well? So in Paulina's example, some of it might look pretty familiar. It might look like classrooms, but in reality, she's working with small groups. And so there's that one approach. And then, of course, Susan Stanforth from the cathedral talked about their kind of intergenerational approach, which kind of involves a meal that at the cathedral they're able to bless families with. It's a busy time for parents, especially when they have children, and to be able to come in and kind of rest in that ability to have a meal together as a family, which is very rare today.
And they do a simple meal, don't they? Something like walking tacos or something simple.
I'll tell you, kids love it.
Oh, yeah.
And so do parents, of course. And then, the kids will go off into their classrooms, which is great. And the parents have time together to create community and also have opportunities to learn more about their faith. So, there's kind of a balance there that works great for that particular.
And do they involve parents too in I think they're thinking about doing that, right? In some kind of faith
I believe once a month they have sessions for the parents, and some of them are very simple. A lot. What they said, one of the favorite ones is Q&A with Father Tom. And so I know my husband and I presented on marriage. One of the times that Father Tom couldn't do the Q&A. So, I think they're looking to expand that. I think they were doing it monthly, and maybe they're talking about doing it more frequently. But there are other parishes within the diocese kind of doing some similar model for that.
And the neat thing is that, they've been growing that over a number of years. It's not that you have to jump with both feet in and change things drastically. It's just, taking a look at it and asking the question of, how can we work with the parents that we have right now and, accompany them and their children through their, formation of faith and support parents in their role. And that's the question that they've asked themselves. And
so then word of mouth would, so You work, instead of bemoaning what you don't have, you work with what you do have.
Yeah.
And that maybe word of mouth then gets to people, right?
And one thing that Susan stressed was that they listened to their parents. They,
yes.
sat down and said, "What do you need?" And I remember one of the stories that Susan talked about was, a single mom who just trying to get her kids there, was hard enough. And if the meal's prepared, that's great. That's one less thing. And if she can stay and join, she will. But if she has to do something else that she has absolutely no other time to do because of her responsibilities, she has that opportunity. So it's meeting parents where they're at, listening to them, and engaging the family to the extent that they're able to at any given time.
That's cool. So that's all part of the synodal process, very naturally done.
And then Julie and Michelle, did you want to introduce that one?
Was St. Paul the Apostle School and Parish. Now they've been working together for I think they said over about a decade on this.
Yeah,
and
they've
so
been
and
working
so
close.
they're farther down. Right. And so they have a very good relationship, the school and the parish, and they're really emphasizing that it's not two separate entities. Oftentimes, the parish program, sometimes those kids, if there's a Catholic school involved, are kind of the step kids, they seem to be.
Yeah.
And they've really been working hard with their households of faith to make sure that everyone goes to households of faith. They even adjusted their
Building
school
bridges.
calendars.
Work? What does it look like, household?
Well, you've been to households of faith with your kids and families.
So it's really good. So there's a meal. There's a section that we kind of all do together, and then different age groups kind of depart and do their own kind of lesson, which also mirrors what happens with the adults.
So the families are all the parents and the kids together?
Well, so we have a meal all together.
Okay.
And then usually there's some kind of introduction or something that happens before we all kind of depart our separate ways. And then we kind of all go apart our separate ways. And so the parents get the adult version of the content, and the children get the children version of the content. And then we come all back together, and sometimes we have an activity that is done in the room together before we all leave
Like
the
what kind
evening.
of activity? Art activity? Or?
Yeah, it just depends on what the topic is. I should know, but it's been a little bit of the summer.
As far as the meal
But
goes, I mean,
it's a simple activity that engages the whole family, and they get to it's more about having the family talk about what they learned and to grow that language of faith, which is so needed. Christian Smith talks a lot about the language of faith in the home being a really important key factor to families growing in their faith and their children having that vocabulary of faith. So, but and then we go our separate. Then we go home, but there's also activities to do at home.
that's important, isn't it? That's the way you
sessions.
keep the front
So
and center.
they're offering basic, those activities offer those prompts for what Denise would call God talk and faith practices in the households. And so those really being the key, and those being not like necessarily scripted, but just kind of prompts.
Can you give some examples of what might happen at home? Like prayer or scripture reading, or what? Or is it a little less formal?
I guess it really depends on the topic, but what you're trying to do ultimately is get parents and anybody in the household comfortable with just talking
About God.
much more naturally about God. And
Okay.
so sometimes we need a little nudge to prime the pump, but it could be, I don't know, maybe it was around Earth Day or something, and just going, what in creation? Look out the window. What in creation speaks to you about God? And just starting a conversation about that. Just having those natural things. It doesn't have to be formal. In fact, it's better if it's not. If it just comes spontaneously. Or prayer the same way. Oh, let's just thank God for that beautiful tree and those beautiful autumn colors, or that butterfly, or whatever.
I remember as a kid, for example, that my mom and dad had, and probably families don't do this anymore, but they had like coffee table sized books, like on a pope or something, and had lots of pictures in it. like photographs of the Pope at that time. And I remember I was fascinated with that. But my mom also, like I remember at Advent, we would be making Christmas decorations, with Mary and Joseph and all of the characters from the manger scene. And she would have all of us get together and we'd glue parts together. And I remember that was a fun activity that we did, and it was very natural.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that the activities carry on the conversation that happened at the session. So, the catechetical content, as far as what the catechism says and all that, that was included in the content at the beginning of the month, kind of gets, pulled into those conversations that you have as a family, as a fruit of what was encountered.
So are those cheat sheets or what? Or
not necessarily. It's kind of what the children pick up, and as adults, what we pick up in the session. And when we have our conversation, it comes up, and lo and behold, Emma or Elijah, hey, the catechism said, X, Y, Z, and it was like, oh wow, you learned the catechism, and then,
that's
but
cool.
They have just as much a role evangelizing the other members of the family as parents as we do, and so it's just when it's intergenerational catechesis, it's about everybody taking a particular role in their faith. And
what about in the smaller rural parishes? Some of the parishes we talked about are, more, they're bigger parishes. What about some of the really tiny little parishes out in the...
I think they do have to be encouraged to think creatively and maybe share resources. One of the hopes is that as we continue with the Zoom sessions, following up we'll have 4 Zoom sessions over the course of the next year where parishes can share what they're doing, but also to encourage them to group together perhaps and share resources. But one thing, just because size doesn't mean that you can't necessarily really do pretty awesome things as far as youth and family engagement. The advantage of the smaller parishes is that people already know each other, so you've already gotten past one of those hurdles.
Right.
When my husband and I worked at a small rural parish in eastern Kentucky, where there might be four kids in the confirmation, preparing for confirmation, it became a whole kind of a parish-wide formation for them, where we met together with their parents and perhaps other relatives and their sponsors, and everybody taught. We had facilitators, obviously, and some curriculum, but it was really them learning from all of the community, and the whole community then celebrated that confirmation. So you can do some things in small rural communities that you just can't volume-wise in some of the larger ones. And I think
in some ways, it works almost easier. Every parish has their own challenges, but I know of a parish of 300 families, which is still kind of on the medium to larger size still, but definitely smaller than in the Quad Cities area. And, it's just a matter of, the main principle is meeting where those families are at and how to best apply that in your particular community, and walk with those families. So even if you're a small parish, there's ways to, first take your families to coffee, see where they're at, learn about them. A lot of times the posture becomes, the kids are not showing up or the parents seem disengaged. It's their fault, which happens out there. But the change in posture really is about instead having a posture of curiosity. What is it about parents today? Why are they not coming? Maybe I should go and take them to coffee and learn kind of what they're facing.
That's a great idea. Yeah, so in newer models of faith formation, parents play a huge role. So how might other adults in the parish offer support?
Yeah, being parents, I'll say right away, is a hard thing, especially today. And a lot of times, statistically, it's also known that a lot of parents feel, A, overwhelmed in general, but B, feel overwhelmed in a sense of even having the language of faith themselves. So putting parents with other parents and getting them in a room sharing about their struggles together is really important, as well as giving them the support that they need from, older members of the parish, who are able to say, hey, you know what, I remember raising my children, this is what we learned or struggled with as well, or, that makes a huge difference.
Oh, that's cool. So you'd have like maybe older couples who would come in and talk and share their experiences too.
Yeah, whatever that looks like. That there is such a beautiful wisdom from older couples and parishes when they're able to be put in the right context and in the right situation to share with parents today, however that can look or work. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I understand that Deacon Ryan Burchett told Summit participants that youth and family engagement was a top concern for diocesan Catholics, but that evangelization was a good starting point for year one. How do the two efforts go hand in hand?
Well, I mean, I think before somebody is going to engage, they need to feel welcome. As if they feel welcome and that they really are accepted in the community. That's the first step, and listened to. So that's kind of where we're going to from now. We get them there. We get them feeling comfortable, hopefully, acknowledging that they're valued and belong, and then we listen to what their needs are, and then we respond to those needs, and that's evangelization, Then year 3 is Catholic teaching and tradition. So then you maybe get to the heart, and it's always all these things. It's not like we stopped welcoming and belonging.
I was going to say you're
at the
still
end of year 1, but just those those 3 seem to go in logical order.
So you're still building on that. You're still building on welcoming and belonging, and
if you look at models of discipleship. All of them follow this similar model of development. As far as, first, is the invitation and evangelization and that, instilling of deeper curiosity about things of God, and, then comes into the catechesis and tradition and becoming part of a community of people, of believers.
So what kind of resources are available right now for families to engage in faith formation at home, even some simple activities?
Well, we have, if people want to go, we have a couple of go-to places, which would be, we have our synodal diocesan webpage that will lead them for year 2 to some resources, and that's going to be constantly being updated. So we've got videos and book recommendations and articles and some things that they can look at. So
they just go to the www.davenportdiocese.org website, or
they can do that, and then if you look, the center button is Synod Year 2, so they can press on that, and then that'll lead them to resources, and they can watch if they didn't attend the synod, they didn't attend the summit. They can see what Denise had to say about things and listen to the panelists that we talked about and get some more ideas. And then our diocesan website under Marriage and Family, Faith Formation, Marriage and Family, have some locations too that have additional resources. But we're just going to keep adding to that. But we really recommend, if anybody has specific questions or really wants to, look at this further, that they contact the Faith Formation Office. And Trevor and I are we have a number of curated resources. So it's really depending on what they are wanting to do, what they're looking for, what their objectives are, what the ages of their children are.
And they can find that again on the diocesan website under Faith Formation, right?
Yeah. And there really is no one size fits all, and no one magic resource. It's really about where your community is at, who you're working with, and what approach, discerned approach do you think would work best? And we've done it with a number of communities. We're more than willing and happy to walk with your community.
So what kind of roles do you see for adults without kids, or parents without, with kids who are out of the house by now, or the elderly, great-grandparents, or not great-grandparents?
Kind of the same as with welcoming and belonging, it's everybody's role. I know one of the things that struck me was in the panel when Julie Delaney said, she's a grandparent too. She attends households. Faith is a grandma in there because she needs to.
Okay.
So it's. And if there's single elderly people, adopt a grandparent.
So they need to be invited, though, don't they? People aren't just going to come and
Oh,
join.
absolutely. Yeah. The youth need to be invited. The grandparents need to be intergenerational. The
So who should be
non-traditional
doing the
families need
inviting?
to be inviting. That's everyone's job, right?
And that's where intergenerational catechesis really comes in, where it's about creating spaces and points of contact between different generations and putting them together in a very intentional way. And you can't just do it off the hip. There has to be some intentionality there and starting small and growing over time to really focus on building community within your parish. Because it's not going to happen by itself. And that's where the research is pointing. And that's what this is really about.
And and it shouldn't be overwhelming either. We don't want it to
No.
be. It's taking, if your small rural parish has coffee and donuts after Mass, your small rural parish is probably going to have a makeup of intergenerational right there and then.
Yeah.
Maybe during coffee and donuts, every Sunday you have a question, a faith question that is that the 2-year-old to the 82-year-old or 92-year-old can answer about their faith.
Right.
And just take 10 minutes before
good
and
idea.
do that. I mean, it's
I
just
like that
getting
idea.
people starting to talk about it.
And
Something as simple as that to start.
there's nothing wrong with trying something new and it failing.
Right.
This is about experimentation and finding ways that work great for your parish. This isn't about, here's the magic pill, this will work great. This is really trying new things, experimenting, and building on what already exists in your community.
That sounds
So that's
great.
really important to remember as well.
And what about encouraging families with kids in sports and other activities to engage in faith formation at home and away? How do you make that happen?
Well, with 6 kids, 1 on the way.
Yeah, how do you do that, Trevor?
We're finding out, especially because 2 of our older children are now getting into middle school activities that are all over the place and all that kind of a thing. Honestly, the thing that works best, the strategy that works best is natural, simple, spontaneous ways to pray together and remain connected. So that's just natural, simple, spontaneous things that we do. So whether, hey, we're all in the car, this is a great time to pray for our intentions. Or everyone's having a meltdown.
Yeah.
Let's just take a moment to breathe together and do a quick check-in.
Right.
Where has God been in our day? Or where do we feel the cross today?
Good example.
Whether it's things like that or, simple prayers that we do in the morning as we're racing out the door for school, or even if it's in the vehicle because we're super late,
Right.
or late at night as we share everybody's intentions and a quick gospel reading of the day. So it really depends on where you're at in your day and just taking the intention there to find some way, in the busy schedule to connect Jesus to our day and keep that what we call Christocentricity, remaining centered on Jesus and that language of Jesus. Because more than anything else, the gift that parents can give to their children is just that language of Jesus.
That's awesome. That seems like a nice way to conclude our conversation, unless you have any other parting thoughts. Awesome. I hope
So grateful.
I hope that you'll come back. This is a really great conversation. I enjoyed this.
Yeah,
You've provided lots of great ideas.
hope so.
We'll come back in a few months and see how things are going.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds good. Thanks, Barb.
Until next time.